Self-improvement. You need to be a self-improver, a perpetual self-improver. That's what modern society, and more particular modern society in the West, tries to teach you. Because I think this only exists in the West because I don't really see this in the less capitalistic countries. Not that I'm against capitalism, I don't really give a shit, to be honest, okay? I'm just here to do what God put me on this earth to do and then skedaddle, okay? But anyways, let's talk about this other group of contenders that I have a problem with, which are the perpetual self-improvers. So I'm gonna have a drink while I gather my thoughts because there's quite a few things that I need to say about these people. So, cheers, mazel tov, massive cum shots, whatever the fuck, yeah, let's go. Alright, so the West is capitalistic by nature, of course. That's the principle that it was founded on. And capitalism is about competition. It's about outdoing the other person. Because that's how you win in business. You have to be better than your competition. So, there's this culture of you perpetually having to improve. And not that there's anything wrong with that. I'm all for advancing as a person and evolving yourself and growing the human race, because that's what evolution is. However, there comes a point where, like everything else in life, people start to overdo it and do too much of it. And I think that's what's going on now in the West. That's why everything seems to be so hyperbolic and exaggerated. For example, that's why you can't even date or talk to a girl unless you're hopping off of a private jet, and you have to be like a billionaire in order to own a private jet, which is only a very small percentage of the total population. But anyways, enough of that simple analogy. Let's proceed. There seems to be this trend of perpetual self-improvement. You have all these self-improvement YouTubers coming up these days who are just telling people simple things like brush your teeth, take a shower, move your body, just dumb shit that you should already know to do by default. But for whatever reason, I don't know, people like to do this to it. They just love doing this to these YouTubers and watching this stuff all day because it makes them feel good, of course. And these YouTubers are basically pushing this idea that you need to be in a perpetual state of self-improvement that never ends, and that you're never good enough as is, and that in order to get what you want in life, you have to be this final product which can never truly be achieved because nobody's perfect at the end of the day. And of course, since nobody's perfect, there seems to be this idea that I'm not good enough as is, and that I'm not worthy of certain things, of the good things in life that God has put on this earth for us. Like being in a fulfilling relationship, or having a purpose in life, or having a family. You're never good enough for it because you should always be reaching the next level. You always have to be going to the gym every single day. You always have to be reading books. You always have to be, expanding your network. And not that there's anything wrong with that. I even promote some of that stuff myself. But at some point, you have to come to what your limitations are, your genetic limitations as what you are as a person. For example, maybe you're more of an introvert and you can't speak in public, right? And you're never gonna be as good as somebody else who is just naturally born that way. Or maybe you're just shorter than other people, therefore you'll never be in the NBA. Those are some examples as to how at some point you have to accept your limitations as a human, and accept that you are human and that you are fallible, and that you bleed red like everybody else. So therefore, while you should always be improving yourself and working on yourself, it shouldn't be your main core to life, and you shouldn't make your ego above somebody else's just because you feel like you're doing it, or because you feel like you're self-improving faster or better than somebody else's. So we see this a lot in dating, oh, you're never good enough unless you're hopping off a private jet, or you're never good enough unless you're benching 300 pounds. Just ridiculous, inane shit like that. It doesn't really mean anything. At some point, you have to also realize what is important in life. What do I want to do before I die? What do I need to achieve before I die? What is God telling me to do? Or what is the universe telling me to do? Whatever you believe in. You have to realize that, and realize that you are immortal and that you will die someday. And therefore, you cannot just fuck around improving all day, because at some point, you need to get to what's important and accomplish what's important in life. So you need to make some time in your day to accomplish those important things. But it's hard to do that when it's just a huge contest of doing this as to who's the better self-improver these days. So these perpetual self-improvers, people seem to think that they're doing good on this earth, but if anything, I think they're actually damaging people's egos by making people think that they can achieve, that they can become superhuman, that they can become like Superman. We're all fallible, we all bleed red, we all get diarrhea sometimes, and we're all gonna end up in a ditch someday with some maggots eating us, okay? So at some point we need to get to what's important in life and not focus so much on this mindless self-improvement, and instead focus on what really matters and what's gonna fulfill us before we die, so that we're not on our deathbed thinking back over the years, oh man, I wonder what would have happened if I would have done this.